Hey, it's Marianne. Welcome back to the Marianne Hickman Show. You know, one of the reasons I started podcasting was to meet incredible people, and I just totally have. I've had some of those amazing connections by just meeting them almost for the first time on my podcast. But the other reason I started my podcast is to introduce you to some of the people that I know and love, some of my best friends. And today is one of those episodes. I want to introduce you to Tiffanie Janowitz. Now, we met not too long ago, but have you ever met someone and you just feel like, oh man, it's like I'm not meeting you. It's like our souls are like, oh, I remember you. We're not meeting for the first time. You're so much my vibe that we are like, our friendship was meant to be. It was just pending. It was just in the making. Well, that's the way Tiffany and I are. We connect on so many levels, down to the doormat that we share. We have the same front porch doormat. It's insane. But here's why this episode is going to be really important for you, especially if you're a mom and a mom who's a business owner. See, Tiffany does it all. And just like me, we both do it all. And we're both business owners and we're both moms. And we're both so perfectly imperfect in each of our own beautiful ways. And this episode is for you if you've ever struggled with this perfectionism or this analysis paralysis or thinking it has to be perfect before you launch it out into the world, whatever it is that you're creating. Stop. Push it out there. Just do it. I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Tiffany. Here's what I want you to do as well. I'm going to copy Mel Robbins. If you know someone that is also struggling with this, if you know someone that could be inspired by this, if their name comes to your mind as you're listening to this episode, be a generous just friend of theirs and give this to them. Send this to them. We're going to help each other grow. We're going to help each other get better. We're going to help each other level up. I'm excited for you to meet Tiffany. Check it out. Okay, I want to share with everyone, like when you walk through the door, like every time we get together, we're soul sisters, and I feel the exact same thing.
Oh, sorry.
You're totally good.
There we go.
Yep. Feel good? Okay, so when we met, I was just so excited to meet. It was one of those things where you didn't meet someone, you remember them.
Oh, I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, where have you been? I'm so glad we found each other again.
Yes.
Like, and we met through the Limitless Society, and you came in as CEO of this thing, and as just this badass chick, super powerhouse, and I fell in love with you just the instant. I was like, oh, let's go out for coffee sometime, and then we went out for Turkish coffee, and then it was just like game over from there. And your family is so beautiful.
1 hour coffee date turned into 4 hours, and then we were like, well, should we go get dinner now?
I know, right? Oh my gosh, it was awesome. And we need to go back there. And, and then, frankly, they just need more Turkish coffee places around here. But I wanted to show you off to the world because I love who you are and I love what you're building. And I was so inspired by your roll of paper reel that you did on Instagram. I totally copied it.
Oh, I love that.
I did. I went and got this big piece of butcher paper and I wrote out all the months and everything I wanted to do. And I'm hoping that some of those sticky notes that I put on there for things that I want to do overlap with some of your sticky notes because I think it'd be really fun to do together.
Yes.
And do all the things. So I wanted to not only show you off to the world, but I want to know what you put on your board. I want to know what you put on your calendar, what you and Mandy did. And tell me all the things.
So one thing that Mandy and I have done since the moment we got together, really it was Mandy's energy that like I've shared that story with you before, that she was just, it was a magnet, you know, and it was just like to come to like, and her energy really pulled me toward her. And one thing that we were very intentional right out of the gate was manifesting and showing our gratitude. And she recently shared a story about that on her Instagram of just like how that shaped her. It was a change of pace in her life that really changed like where her focus was and where her energy was spent.
Yeah.
And when we were dating, it was like we would wake up every morning and we would text each other the 5 most things we were grateful for that day.
Awesome,
and that's how we started our days.
Who does that?
Well, it was new for me too. That wasn't a practice that I had done before. We were just like kind of batting things off together, and we were like, well, what if we did this? And it was just a really lovely way of starting the day. And so we were reflecting on that. Our anniversary is in January, so we kind of get this like beautiful storm of
happy anniversary. By
thank you. So we get this perfect storm of ending the previous year, making our vision board for what we want to have come to fruition the next year, what we want to work hard for, what we want to dream big for. And then we're also celebrating us too. So it's just kind of this perfect storm
This is
of
like creation
yeah,
space.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in any year mark, whether it's a birthday or an anniversary or anything, I think it's a really beautiful time to reflect on not just like what's upcoming, but like what have you accomplished over that last trip around the sun with that landmark, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what's up? Marianne Hickman here. Listen, I'm interrupting my own show because I want to give you something. Now, you guys all want to get on more stages. I've got a free resource for you of stages that are just clamoring for guests. They need guests on a daily, weekly, sometimes monthly basis. This is my podcast database. Now, what I'm going to do is have you go to mariannehickman.com/database. Once you put in your information there, I'm going to send this to you totally for free. Open up this database. You're going to click through it, find the next podcast that's relevant to your topic, hit the application button, show up on their podcast, get in front of their people, and share your content. Remember, mariannehickman.com/database. Let's get you unlocked.
And so it's really fun that we get to do that in January with both like big goals and our anniversary, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So anyways, we were reflecting this last year. We were kind of rereading some of these 5 lists that we had sent, 7 years ago.
That's so
and your mind is
cute.
just different. You're obviously in a very different place in life and everything. And when we broke up our vision board for this year, we did this last year also. So this was our second year doing it, and it was really lovely doing it this way, but we break it up in hers, mine, our family, and our son, Bing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Banks has got to fold in there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we kind of just like make a little initial, like I'll put a T by mine, an M by hers, a B by his. And then our family one is kind of just in like a separate space on there.
Does he come into, like, does he participate? Is he old enough to kind of say?
So he's starting to.
Really?
It's really special of like, we'll wrap up the day of kind of like what we're grateful for. And it was actually last night was the first night that he started really like thinking about it and formulating like organic answers. And he, when they're little, there's a lot of mimicking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But last night he was like, I'm grateful for Grammy. And we were like, oh, okay.
Oh, and this original thought that unprompted. How cute is that?
Yeah. And of course he was grateful for poop. That made the list last night. We're in toddler phase right now.
We both are.
That's real life.
It was a very poopy day. There's poop everywhere.
So anyways, that's how we kind of broke it up was like, what do we want to accomplish both individually, together as a family? And that's how we started it last year. We really loved it. And then we put it up on the wall all year long. So it's not something that like gets rolled up and then we revisit it next December.
Mine's on my floor in my room. I think I just was inspired this morning to tape it to the wall. I'm like, it's ugly, but it's beautiful.
Oh yeah. Last year it was like with washable markers. And this year I did it a little bit nicer, but it's like very imperfect. But I think that's what makes it special is like, when you're revisiting it, it's real.
Yeah. It's in the moment. It's live. It's messy. Life is messy. Life is ugly. Life is imperfect. But it's also that is within where the beauty is made is what did you make with what you were given?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things? Is there like retreats that you're planning? We were upstairs and I was like, we have to start recording because you're about to drop something. What is it? What's I call it the BHAG, but the big hairy thing for this year?
Mm-hmm. So we are going to acquire a business together this year as well.
So we've both
done that. We've got our eyes on some things. One of them is a mobile coffee on wheels. That's one that we're batting around right now.
All right.
There's a big need for that one, but we're not just going to stop at coffee. I mean, you know that health is like big in our world.
Oh yeah.
Without your health in all the areas of health, like you've got nothing.
Well, and for those of you that don't know, Mandy is like CrossFit. She's a big girl in CrossFit, like big name in CrossFit.
Yeah.
Like she's when I met her, I was like, wow. Because when I started CrossFit, holy crap. Like that was the scariest son bitch. That was super intimidating.
The day I met her was 2 weeks post her team winning the games. So you can imagine this like statue.
Look at Richard's face.
That's awesome.
My sister and I walk into this concert and like I see this statue and I was just like,
respect.
So it's the joke that like I saw her first, she heard me first, which is not shocking at all because I'm a very loud person.
That's so perfect.
Health
is a big thing.
So in that, like in the coffee on wheels, we're kind of talking about like, well, let's not just stop at coffee, but like, whether it's some juices that are going to help people. Not everybody's a coffee drinker.
Yeah,
We can appreciate it, but
Yeah.
some people need the juice. Some people need just a protein drink, but then also really supporting the local pieces of that, So we've got a local coffee shop that we're talking about that like we would want to roast their beans, and some other friends that have like different supplement lines, and we would want to have that be the protein base,
Right.
or local farmers that then we can do their produce, and just really incorporating the local piece of it,
Yeah.
but then making it accessible to not just coming into
I need
brick and
to
mortar.
introduce you to a friend of mine who's starting local farms. She's in Florida, but her husband is doing this kind of the same concept with restaurants and making it as local as and sustainably sourced as possible.
Yes.
And you guys would be like,
Well, that's our favorite type of restaurant. It's like a farm to table restaurant. There's nothing more fresh. So why wouldn't we do that in the everyday things that we're consuming, not just like on date night?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so this is really exciting. So making that business model, what are some of the other things you want to do this year?
For me, there's a lot of like personal growth that I want to do, either like speaking wise, or there's a lot with Limitless that we've got on the table that
Do I
are
get
going to
to know
be
what
some.
it is? And tell me what it is.
There's some online and offline stuff. I mean, with Limitless, we're focused so hard on personal development right now. So of course, we're going to teach people how to be, the business side of things, how to acquire and build their businesses and stuff. But personal development is one that is so, it's a very underestimated tool.
It is. And when I had Keaton on the show, we were talking about how hard it is to create a business around personal development, because when you need it, you don't know that you need it. And so you don't go looking for it.
Yep.
So when you host a personal development platform, in order to, very talking business side of things, in order to develop a lead magnet or to offer your audience what they will be attracted to, it's a challenge. I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah. It's a really hard one to articulate in words because often it's something that is felt.
Yeah.
Inception. You've seen Inception.
I love this movie.
I love this movie.
I feel like we should do a movie watch night with Inception.
I would love to do that. Inception is just one of those ones that like you get something new. It's like a good book that you pick up and you're like every time, So I was actually watching it on a flight a couple months ago, and it's that scene when Ellen Page walks in and she goes under in the movie. She goes into like the first dream in the movie, and then she like rips off the stuff and she storms out of there.
So for those of us that don't do movie names, Ellen Page is the architect that they're bringing in.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know very many movie stars. I know like Mel Gibson.
I'm not very good at
and
movie
Jimmy
stars
Caviezel,
either.
but that's it. Okay, so Ellen Page, the new architect in the movie, and she's like, she just came out of her dream state, ripping everything off.
Okay. It scared her to death. She was like, what the hell just even happened to my brain, you know? And she ripped it all off and she stormed out of there, and they were like, are you going to go get her? And Leonardo DiCaprio was like, she'll be back. Once you taste something like that, you crave it and you have to come back.
It's like a drug.
Yes. And once you, right when that happened, I was like, that is personal development. Once you taste the progression of personal development, you can't go back to where you were 10 minutes ago or a year ago or anything like that. It's like, no.
It'll be gnawing at you.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of the first time, and Steve Harvey talked exactly about this. The first time I bought myself a first class ticket, and I sat in first class, and I was like, this is nice.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I bought a coach ticket after that, and I walked by first class, I'm like, I can do this. This is fine. And I'm grateful for the flight. I just stepped into gratitude right away. But I'm like, I don't know that I want to do that again. I would like to have that for myself. And it's not just a measurement of luxury, and it's not a measurement of affluence, but it's the way you feel.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And that's what, like, when your focus is in the right place like that, in a state of growth and in that state of abundance, there's so many powerful things that get unlocked in there that, for me anyways, there are places that my mind and that myself, my marriage, my family, my friendships, there's just like a new level that you unlock. And it really is like a powerful tool that you're just like, I will never let go of that.
Yeah.
So So kind of circling back to that, it's really hard to articulate that to somebody that either doesn't have mindset and growth as a priority or that hasn't felt the power of that. And how do you put that into a lead magnet that you
Right.
can say, like, you're going to walk away with these things? And it's like, if you put the effort into it,
Yeah.
you
Oh, and
know?
I think that's why the lead magnet or the attractive pull, if you will, has morphed into well, it started out as, a show on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is, and I'll use Keaton as an example because he's a mutual friend of ours, and,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a lot of examples of this where
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to land my chopper at my house,
Yeah.
and I'm going to, have this beautiful car, and I'm going to do this, and then it went and swung in this really terrible direction with other people. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to rent a Lambo and then record a video of it to make you think that I'm cool, so that you want what I have, so that you buy
Yeah.
my stuff, and that facade, I think people are starting to see through
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling people have, I think we've become repelled by that.
Yeah.
But this conversation about a lifestyle of do I like the way that I feel
Mm-hmm.
when I see that, and do I want that? And one of the examples that makes me think about this is a simple reel. Again, Keaton posted it, and it's just a picture of him holding Maddie's hand. I'm gonna cry on the back porch, and
I
it's
know what you're
panning
talking
out to the kids playing on the lawn. And I commented on that, and I said, "This made me so emotional." Like 6 months ago, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
still getting responses to that comment. It's crazy, but when you feel something, and you're like, "This," I've somehow made it this picture of this beautiful family moment, a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm chasing.
Yes.
That's what I want more
Yeah.
of.
For me, it's like, it's not the dollar signs in my bank account, though that makes some things easier.
Sure, yeah.
It's not that, but it's like, from what you're describing to me, in my heart, that's freedom.
Yeah.
And that is like true wealth to me, that I can be around my family. I can provide opportunity for my family. Or, like there's different pieces of that. And it's the connection that it's not like, okay, I'll see you at 6 p.m. every day.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
me, that's the definition of my wealth. And for everybody, that's very different.
I think it is. And I think that I have learned that wealth is a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I paid a lot of money for that tuition.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of money for that tuition.
Yeah.
And I will admit that in the past, up until pretty recently, that I was chasing the dollar because of what the dollar meant,
Mm-hmm.
and what the dollar could do. And don't get me wrong, I still want all of those things.
Sure.
But in the pursuit of that, I have learned more about what it means to be able to hold my boy, hold my baby at the
Yeah.
end of the day or in the middle of the day. Yesterday, I canceled a bunch of stuff because the poor kid was feeling so sick.
Uh-huh.
And that was wealth to me.
Yeah.
And I have learned, and I'm still in the classroom of learning about my role in the wealth, and in my time and how I spend my time. I have this little purple notebook about, I call it Letters from God.
Mm.
And every day I listen to whatever God has for me and I write it down. And sometimes it's dad and sometimes it's mom. But even just today, it was a bit of a censure, a little bit loving, but
Mhm.
still like, you spent time in something that you didn't enjoy, and that is not your purpose.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, reevaluate, redo my day.
Uh-huh.
And this is where, I'm developing as a person in the midst of all this. I feel like for me, and I don't know, maybe it's something in the air or the water, but I feel like I am back in the classroom again. It's a very humbling place to be.
Yeah. You were sharing this with me on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I feel like there's so much more ahead of me,
Mhm.
and there's so much for me to learn, but I'm also very proud of how far I've come,
Oh, absolutely.
I
I feel like there's a really beautiful spot that you get to, that the further into personal development and growth and, all these fill in the blanks that you
Yeah.
get to, you learn the power of listening and learning, and you're constantly learning. The greatest mentors I know are constantly learning
Oh,
and
amen.
observing. But that's how we are also then able to pour into others, is by taking that seat of just slowing down and listening to that,
Yeah. And it has to be very
So-
egoless. I used to be very full of ego,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say arrogant
Uh-huh.
in that, because I was like, oh, I have developed personally.
Mm-hmm.
Look at me. Right? And then I get put on stage with sparklers and fog machines and lights, and it's just like, look how cool I am. And I've made my fair share of mistakes in that space. But this, this last year and especially this upcoming year, I feel very, I hope humbled enough. But, when we were together on Saturday, just looking around the room, I was so grateful to be in that space of other people that are also hungry and other people who are also please teach me energy people and other people that are looking on getting their marriages better and other people that are looking at getting their health better. And it felt okay to have a substantial amount of progress, stuff that you're like, yeah, I worked hard and I'm very proud of that, but also like, but this isn't it.
Yeah.
There's more.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but for me, that was not always the space for me. I didn't know about it. When did it start for you?
I had I've had it throughout my 20s. There were a handful of life events that it took me a long time to embrace them and to not be shameful about them. And I don't want to like hide them under the rugs, like, oh, this has happened to me or I've done this or whatever. It took me a long time to be able to like wrap my arms around those and then to say like, thank you, God, for making that happen and for putting me into the seat where like I did slip up and I did make some mistakes to be able to teach me what I needed to actually learn to value and to prioritize and things like that. And for me, I would say over the last 3 years, that's a very short amount of time.
Comparatively, yeah.
But over the last 3 years is when I have really face planted into that space of, right? Is that a good vision or what?
I just watched The Office last night with Michael Scott and the concrete with the straw.
Yes, that has been me for the last 3 years.
I'm the first moment. That's my new favorite.
I am so
love
sorry.
it.
I have to interrupt. There's so much feedback coming out of your mic.
Oh,
I'm gonna switch it. So we're not gonna stop the live or anything
That's
like
all right.
that. But I gotta switch that mic out.
Okay, that's awesome. Should we pause the juicy conversation while that happens?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I want more of this content, but this is
Thank you for always having our back, babe.
not working.
That, you know how many people have said that?
Yeah, can you just clone in your Go High Level workshop? Can you work on cloning too?
That's
So you can make the AI bots and then make like the AI richer.
That's exactly what he's done. One day we're just going to be like, hey, I'm prostituting out my husband's skills right now, like the body's all mine, but you can share his brain with me if you want.
Oh
I'm going to sell his brain. Oh,
man.
okay, let's see if that works any better.
Say something.
Say something.
Don't know what.
Is it a cable thing?
It might be a cable thing. Off the cable.
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
This you're making it better,
This is real life.
right?
This is what I love about like, when we were talking about like it is not all rainbows and like
Nope.
all polished stuff, like the behind the scenes, but that's what makes everything like that's where you really have the knowledge of like everything is under that time under tension.
Mm-hmm. Time under tension. Oh, I think about that at the gym all the time. I'm like, this is building me.
In the classes that I teach at the gym, I say that a lot and I'm like,
Hold on.
okay, we're going back into time under tension, and they're probably like, don't tell me.
But at the same time, I feel really good because I'm like, okay, I don't even have to pump this if I just keep it right here.
Oh, it's that
And-
static arm that's moving
right?
all the way.
Like that, if I
The
can
one
just
that's-
hold
the
it.
one that's moving is just traction.
Yeah.
It's the static arm that's doing all of the work at that point.
And it's part of what makes me like the hallway that you walk through before you get into the studio, the unfinished hallway. I'm like, do we keep it that way? Just to see what people think. Like part of me is I'm like, oh, they're gonna judge me. I'm gonna have these incredible guests in here. When Gary V shows up and sees my hallway, he's gonna be like, get your shit together, girl. But part of me is like, no, there's a strip of white paint on the wall in this studio. We'll leave it there. And well, maybe.
No.
Eventually we'll get to it. But but I'm not gonna stop recording podcasts because the hallway's not finished.
Right.
I'm not gonna stop recording podcasts because there's unfinished paint off camera or on
Totally.
camera or whatever. It's just part of the process. And okay, can I tell you a really weird story?
Yeah.
So I did a marathon, and this just shows how much scarcity I was in. I bought a ticket to do the Provo City Marathon, and then I got pregnant, and I was like, that was $80. I'm still going to do this stupid marathon. That was an $80 ticket. I can't waste that. So here I am. It's day of the marathon, and I'm 33 weeks pregnant running a stupid marathon because I was like, I have to get my money's worth, blah, blah, blah. How are we doing? You want to test it again?
How about now?
It's gone.
Oh,
It
you
was the
did
cable.
it. You
Okay.
did it.
If I move this, did I just mess it up?
You're good. So go ahead and put it wherever is most natural for you, wherever feels comfortable.
Okay.
So I'm running this marathon, and running is a loose term. I'm being followed by ambulances on this marathon. No kidding. I wish I had a camera. But the thing that stuck out to me was that there was a guy in front of me who had pooped himself.
Oh.
With the commitment of a marathoner,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was so tempted to be like, I can see your poo-poo. But then I realized he was beating me. You know?
Yeah.
Like, how dare I shit shame you when you're ahead of me? And that was like this beautiful life lesson as I'm running there. Like, if I'm going to shit shame people, I have to realize that they're ahead of me in many ways.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't shit shame people.
Yeah.
So that was my story.
I love that.
It's my mic change story.
That's such a dedication too to his race. It's like he needed that time.
Yeah.
And like talk
Right.
about urgency. Because that's the difference between the people who are getting first and fifth is the urgency.
I'm going to poop myself. I don't care. I'm going to poop myself. Oh my gosh.
Lots of poop metaphors today.
Oh, I know. It's just a thing.
Yes.
It's a parent of toddlers thing.
Oh, yes.
I was dying Saturday when we were at Keaton's house, and he just kept saying abundancy. Were you hearing that too? I was like, this is, again, I can't shit shame. I'm like, I don't know that that's a word, but you keep going. I can't shit shame you because you're way ahead of me in many ways. So. I just need to be gentler with ourselves. Okay, you were saying something back when we changed the mics. You're about to go into this story.
Oh. I was
You're
telling
back in the
you.
beginning in your 20s.
Oh, I was just
Richard, do you need this? Sorry, I just interrupted.
Oh, I think it's on for the bottom of this. I was just mentioning that like it was only over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
That I really dove into personal development. Prior to that, though, I mean, I spent the last decade in talk therapy and like self-help books and anything that you can get. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can digest out there, right?
Oh yeah, and some of it's not
And-
as great as others of it.
Right. And the talk therapy part of that really helped me understand kind of like some root of like choices I was making, or, you know, it helped me understand circumstances that had happened in my life at that point. But for me, there was a point where I was like, okay, I've had some good amount of talk therapy and I'm ready to grow now. I'm done fixing. I have got some really good like problem solving and I'm at peace with a lot of the things right here,
Yeah.
but I'm ready to grow.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Yeah.
And
This is 10 years of building a foundation and 3 years of this
Yeah.
exponential growth.
And so that's where I've really spent the last several years of focusing on what does that mean for me? And for me, that is manifesting, that's gratitude. It's just, it's learning, listening and
Mhm.
learning, not being afraid to ask and understand better, and communication. Communication is huge.
Yeah, that's something Richard and I feels like we're constantly in the classroom of that, and learning how to communicate and meta communication and all of that. And I know when we chatted over coffee up in Salt Lake, we got deep into your story because I was just so curious. But I know this is like a super public platform, but whatever you're willing to share with what you went through, I'd love to share that with the world, and I'll let you decide what you want to go into detail with and what you don't, because there's so many people. I know I benefited from listening to your story, and I'm a better person because I hang around you.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you.
I am.
Yeah.
And selfishly, that's when I can come on my podcast. But it was especially what you went into. I have fought several battles of faith within myself, and not just organized religion faith, but how I behave in terms of spirituality, and especially when it comes to judgment.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Like, even having a cup of coffee in my hand used to be like, don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
I used to disguise at work my cup of coffee as tea.
Uh-huh.
I had the luxury of having an assistant, and she would make a run for me. And I was like, I need you to break the string off a tea bag and put it in the lid of the cup and put the lid on.
Yeah.
Because there was this one time, I don't know if I told you this, when I was I was on a company trip. And again, back to this life is messy thing. I took this really raw, messy picture, selfie style, posted it on Instagram. And then I made the next picture like, here's what Instagram wants you to see versus really what's happening in my sweats and my pajamas, at the airport. And it was one of the most engaging pictures I got on social media, and which was really exciting for me, not because of the views. It didn't go viral or anything, but I was like, okay, this is connecting with people.
Yeah.
This is helping people. This is serving people. And when I got to the venue, the owner of the company like sat me down on the back porch of this beautiful resort in Hawaii. And he's like, you need to pull that down for religious reasons. You need to pull that down because you're drinking coffee. And I don't know if you can represent our company if you're drinking coffee. And I was like,
wow,
what the hell? And at the time I hadn't developed personally enough to be like, no, you weirdo.
Yeah.
Like, this is my personal page. What the hell? And for the sake of keeping my job, I deleted it. And then stepped into the violation of everything that post was meant to be, is just be authentic and be you and be messy. Who cares? And so that for me was like the judgment that I succumbed to.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's a part of your story you want to share, but I know you have XP in this, you know?
I know we laugh a lot at like, what book are we on in my life and what chapter are we on? Because I mean, I'm a young 37 years old, but I would say truly like the time in my 20s, those were, I think that's where I base of like when I'm sitting here talking about personal development and I'm like, I've really spent the last like 3 years really leaning into this. And then I think like how long my 20s were.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, wow, if I'm this far in 3 years, truly like I've catapulted over the last, I would say 6 months is when I've really, really like just gone for it. And if that amount of progress has happened in 6 months, 3 years, I think of like, oh, watch this decade, then. Like, watch me go.
Yeah.
You know? And I say that to myself. I don't say that to others, you know, but I'm like, you wait.
Yeah,
like,
get excited.
Wait what's in store for you, you know? And it's exciting and it makes me hungry as hell.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to share some of my experiences. I was really lucky to grow. I'm the youngest of 8 children.
That's where we vibe again.
Yes.
So I'm like, youngest of 10 over here. So many similar experiences.
Families, yes. And when you are the youngest of many kids of I think in any circumstance you can be very observant, but in my situation I was very observant to we have a lot of different personalities in my family.
Well, and there's so many data points.
Yeah.
When you're the youngest. When you're the oldest, there's not as much data.
Right. So much data points, and then so many years of like not only watching my siblings make different choices, but watching my parents' parenting styles shift.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, even just knowing like Banks is only 3 years old, and like how I react today is different than how I reacted a month ago because we're constantly learning. You know?
And our parents are too. We forget that as kids.
Yes, we do forget that as kids. And so watching them, and it really took me like being in a parent role to understand like the day I had Banks, and your heart explodes when you have a child, you know, and it was one of the first words out of my mouth when I held Banks for the first time. I was just like overwhelmed with all of the feelings, of course, you know, but I looked at my mom and I was like, you love me this much? And it was just so overwhelming. And so, I mean, again, just like talk about gratitude and talk about like an appreciation for what she has poured into me. But I was really lucky enough to, in a chaotic household of 8, by the time I really remember life, because there's an 18-year gap between me and the oldest. So by the time I remember life, the older 3 were not living in the house. The younger 5 were really like, that was kind of like.
Yeah, there's like
the
sections
siblings.
of them.
Yeah. So they were out of the house, and And that's really where I remember life was with the younger 5. And my parents did a really incredible job with me of helping set a foundation of unbridled love and safety for me. There was not ever a question, and there never has been a question in my mind of the safety and security and the love that they always have for me.
I love that you acknowledge that, because I think if it's there, we take it for granted a lot of the
Yeah.
times, you know?
Yeah.
I hear a lot of, when we do mindset work, and a lot of that comes through real or perceived childhood trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And for us to acknowledge, wow, my parents were actually pretty damn amazing. I don't think
Yeah.
that gets said enough.
Yeah, they made some pretty big sacrifices for me to have a good childhood and to have a stable childhood. My dad got a really great job opportunity when I was in high school. I was really like academically involved. I was on like a competitive cheerleading squad. Like I was just very integrated in my community
Yeah.
in high school. And this job opportunity would have transplanted us into Northern California. And he was like, I can't do that to her. There's no way I can pull her out. And not to mention it was going to Stockton, California. So let's not take this tiny little 5-foot girl and plop her into survival in Stockton, right? But then I think about the sacrifices that my parents went through. So my dad commuted back and forth. He still accepted the job under very, very specific conditions with his job to
Good
be
for
able
him.
to commute back and forth until I was graduated from high school. And then they both moved over there at that time. But there was just a lot of sacrifice that I watched them make. There was, and then there were things that I observed that I was like, is that reality, or is that like my parents didn't disagree in front of us? And I think that that's one thing that I had to learn the hard way, was like disagreements actually do happen, but I didn't watch them happen. And again, we do our best as parents.
I think that's true.
I think that they probably were like, let's just tone this down into, whatever.
Yeah, let's not
But
fight in front of the kids.
yeah, and I think that there's definitely a happy medium between that of helping people like see problem solving, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. My kids were very confused in my first marriage when we got divorced, because they felt the energy, but we made it a point never to fight in front of the kids, but we fought a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now Richard and I, when we have a disagreement, I think when it gets heated, we close the doors and try to keep it in a container, but that's very rare.
Yeah.
And so probably the same with you. We let the discussion happen in front of the kids, but also let them watch the resolution.
Yes.
That's
the
probably
piece.
stole your
And
thunder,
the other
but
part
that's
of that is no one's playing catch up at that point.
yeah.
No one's like, what are you guys still talking about? It's like, oh yeah, we all started talking about this the other day,
Yep.
But so I had a great upbringing, and there were other things that I was just kind of like following what you did next, because that's kind of what I was told to do next, and that's just like societal norms.
Yep.
Where I grew up, for the women, there was a lot of just like optional, like, do you want to go to college, or do you just want to get married and start having babies? And neither one is right, but it has to be right for that person. Neither one is right or wrong. It just needs to be right for that person.
Right.
And I got married really young. I did right what I did. I followed what my religion was telling me. And just I was doing the best for what I had at that time for myself.
Right.
And there was a point later on that I knew this is not my forever, and this is not what I want for my life. Our values really weren't, like, our long-term visions weren't really aligning. There was a lot that I was like, shit, what do I do right now?
Yeah. But that takes guts to even look at.
Yeah. It was really difficult. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because this vision that I had originally set out on was broken.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
You didn't have enough data. Speaking of data points, like
Absolutely. I could have used a lot more data. Yeah.
When you learn that there are other options out there, and you're like, hold on a second, this option that I'm living, that I've been told should bring me happiness, and the picture has been painted, not necessarily for me, but the outline at least. And then you're like, hold on, wait a second. That's a scary scary thing because it's very unknown. It's very unstable, but it's the same feeling we talked about earlier. Like there's the happiness that I'm missing that's available.
Yeah, totally. And then in combination with this marriage that was falling apart, I was also it was the first time in my life that I was wrestling with my beliefs in my religion. And I was questioning what really felt right to me. And so I made the decision to use my voice, and my marriage came to an end and my religion came to an end. Two of the things that for the 20 years of my life up to that point were the two most important things that you could focus on.
Yeah, those
and
are
they
foundational
came
things.
crashing down. And again, to kind of the point of like fighting behind closed doors, my parents were like, we're trying to play catch up right now.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see this coming. We didn't see any of the problems happening because I too was battling it behind a closed door instead of using some resources. And I think that there's a happy medium of like what you share, right?
Of course. It doesn't mean you have to blow out your problems to the world like a disgusting, again, poopy diaper. Let's make sure we change this diaper, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But what it taught me.
Can you tell we're moms?
What it taught me, though, was the power of my voice and listening to myself and knowing that I do know and can use that voice to grow myself and to become a healthier version of myself. Now, when I say healthier version, I had to hit rock bottom before I got to start brushing off all of the dust and becoming that person that I knew was in here, but it was just molded my whole life. But I had the courage to start finding that because of this safe, secure foundation that I was brought up on.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of different feelings of like, I was so grateful for some of, for like the safety that I had been brought up on. But then I was really frustrated with like, it was this or nothing. There were no options at that point because it's just what you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was also like societal pressure and the norms that I was just taking on myself. And so there were a lot of different feelings. But, and Keaton and I were actually talking about this relevant to today and like problems that arise today is there's a lot of beauty when you sit in the dark. And when you sit in the dark and you smell it and taste it and feel it to your core, that is when that light starts emerging and you really feel what is right for me, what is right in this circumstance. What do I need to learn most importantly? And that was the piece that I was like, I'm listening. What do you need to teach me right now? Because it was a lot of firsts for my friends, for my, like the people that I was around at that time. There was a lot of feeling of alone and sitting with myself, but there was an underlying feeling of courage and need to do that. And that's what started my growth originally, to have faith in my own voice. And then from that, I have been able to develop my own relationship with God. And what does that look like? And it's a really interesting piece when someone's like, oh, you were raised Mormon, but then now you're not. So you for sure don't believe in God then anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Like, don't stamp that on me.
Right?
I have a very strong belief in my spirituality still. And my relationship with God is stronger today than it ever has been. It's a really interesting seat to be in when
it's fascinating to me because you're one of 3 people that I know that, for lack of a better term, made a religious exit, right? Specifically from Mormonism, right? And has been a more peaceful person because of their decision, and their relationship with God has stronger. I'm not advocating that anyone listening should jump and make that exit unless it's right for you. But the point is, it doesn't matter about the religion. The point is becoming a more peaceful person with who you are.
Yes.
And strengthening, and then your parents set such a beautiful example of strengthening the relationship with your parents that are godparents, right? And you had such a beautiful example with your earthly parents that probably laid a lot of the foundation work for that.
Yeah.
But I've seen so many people take it the other way and become spiteful
Yes.
and they become bitter, and they make these decisions that are from a place of anger and fear. And I
Yeah.
think that's what sabotages that the most. It wasn't the religion that did the sabotaging.
Right.
It's the bitterness and the anger and the fear that is continuing to be the bedrock for decisions, rather than what you've exemplified so well, is this
Yeah.
place of peace. And I'm learning to trust my voice, and I'm learning that there are seasons, and I'm learning that those seasons can come to a completion, and then I get to continue to evolve. And that's one of the things that I have admired most about you, and why I love who I am more when I'm in your presence, is that you embody this deep connection to what does it mean to be Tiffany, and what does it mean to be happy when I am myself, because there are going to be alone times. And am I happy with my own company when I'm alone? That's something that I feel you embody so well, and you have paid a high price for it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really it's a journey that took me a long time to be grateful for, because again, there were feelings of embarrassment and shame and regret and all of the emotions that, I was grieving. I was grieving this life that
You've had a loss.
yeah. And then, and that was just one of 87,000 chapters through my
golf.
20s,
Yeah.
But it was the starting point of being able to lean on myself for that. And then as I continued to make mistakes, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? And what do we need to learn from this to become better? And then there was a point of like, okay, what do I need to look at habit wise? What habits do I need to break? So I stopped making, so I stopped doing certain patterns, or so I can make healthier habits for myself. What are things I need to let go of that my old self is like, remember, this is what we do? And I'm like, not anymore.
Actually, we don't have to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to dive into this because I feel, and I have witnessed, a lot of people take this too far and say, no, this is my truth, when they're just in denial of bedrock, like gravity truth that is gravity that you might not like. And where do you feel the division is? How do we tell the difference between, yes, I'm learning to trust my voice and I'm listening and I'm honoring myself, versus, oh, I'm honoring myself, bitch, and I can like just live in rebellion for the rebellion's sake, and there's a level of inauthenticity and pride there. I mean, do you know what I'm talking about?
And it's the last word that you just said for me is when pride steps in, calmness is going out the window. And it's just like how like fear and gratitude cannot coexist. I don't believe that calmness and pridefulness can coexist either. That you really need to to truly be at peace with yourself. The heightened emotions fly out the window, and you do sit in that space of calmness with yourself, and you're at peace with who you're looking at in the mirror. You're at peace with the goals that are in front of you, with the dreams and the visions that are in front of you. You're excited about them, but you're not doing it in a way or in a purpose to spite people or to like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
You're doing it in a way that you're saying like, okay, here's where I'm at. This is all that I've learned. This is my data that I have, because our data is the best thing that we can do to grow ourselves. It's all in front of us. You can digest every self-help book in the world, but if you're analyzing your own data points, I mean, that's where your superpower is, to say like, yep, want to keep that in my habits and my priorities, or like, nope, I never want to repeat that one.
Yeah.
Let's toss it, But when you're kind of looking at it like that, it kind of goes back to like a state of like making logical decisions when you're looking at it in a data.
Yeah.
And that's probably the integrator in me.
Well, yeah, and that's the beautiful part, is because you're looking at long term, because we justify these short term things. When I first got divorced, I was like, I toyed with this idea, I'm going to go get a tattoo. And it was in rebellion. And I checked myself, because I'm like, okay, this is a permanent decision based on a
Yes.
temporary feeling. Do I
Yes.
really want this?
Uh-huh.
And I gave myself a rule. If I still want it a year from now, I'll go get it.
Yep.
But it's this instant gratification that I think rebellion lives in a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also very external, like you mentioned, where I'm going to show them, I'm going to prove to them, blah, blah, blah. And that's such a waste.
Yeah.
Versus, do I like who I am when I'm alone? And will the 10 years from now version of me be proud of who I am today?
Yeah. Can you sit with yourself in stillness, and can you quiet your mind? Can you be in that state of peace? Like, can you get there individually, or are there outer variables that you have to rely on, whether that is another person or whether that is a substance of some sort, or fill in the blank? I mean, it's a very, very loud world that we live in, but can you get to a point where you are in that still peaceful factor? And again, it leads back to freedom for me. That is freedom for me. And that's where I feel like a lot of my chains broke free, is when I was able to say, like, I was able to embrace some of kind of these monster things that I was so shameful about for so long, and embarrassed to share with people, like, oh yeah, this is my past personal resume, like, and now it's like, oh yeah, I went through all of this, and let me tell you what I've learned from that, because now we're talking about growth.
Yeah. Yeah. When's your book coming out? I'm serious. Like, you have, there's the one of the reasons I wanted you here is because I want to elevate your message.
Yeah.
Because I get to drink from it all the time. But I sure hope you and Mandy sat down and like, okay, my book is coming out this day. We're hosting this retreat this day. Like, I'm selfishly imposing all of the things that I want to do on you. But it seriously, like, where are you taking this? Because there's so many people that can be better off because they'll hear your voice.
Yeah, I do feel like that I'm on the starting point of like sharing a lot of this journey, and sharing my life experiences and my bazillion chapters that have been able to get me to a peaceful today and a purposeful today. Because it's not just about peace, but if you have a purpose and you know what you're striving for, like, as individuals, we have to have that purpose. If we don't have a purpose, then like, what are you waking up for? What is driving you out of bed? You'll hit the snooze, but I was a snoozer for a very long time. But
it has so many definitions.
And it's kind of like coming to crashing together right now, because I was a snoozer on many definitions, like you just said. But for a long time of when I was snoozing, I lacked purpose for a very long time. And I was reacting to a lot of things in my life. I wasn't problem solving. I wasn't using my voice as I know how to do today. And it was when I really dug deep and found a purpose for me. And that purpose evolves, and that's beautiful,
I
right?
think we have to remember that.
Yes.
Because your purpose can come to a completion.
Yeah.
Like Tangled, when she's like, what happens when I get what I want?
Uh-huh.
That's a lesson for me.
Yeah.
That I've had to learn.
Mandy and I have talked about that, of the evolution of things, because we've really, I love our relationship. I'm
It's
really
so
grateful for it. But we say oftentimes, and especially, I've watched her hit a new breaking point of personal development as well over the last little while. And it was actually from one of the marriage masterminds that we went to. Yeah, it was a really beautiful experience. And we both were like, yeah, this is going to be fun. Like, we've got a great marriage. We'll probably learn a lot, but we loved like where things were before. And we came home and it was like our minds were blown, because what we thought our purpose was at that point had expanded, and it like broken through this new level. And we're like, holy shit, this is what is going to happen continually as you grow, right? And that is so cool to be able to know. So to your point, I do feel like I'm excited to see where the journey goes of just like sharing my message, and also like finding and fine-tuning that of like what it is that I need to share with people.
Well, I'm excited to see it grow. I think it's very deserving.
Thank you.
I think there's a place for you. And again, I don't even own this event, but there's a place for you on the Limitless Arena stage.
Oh, thank you.
Don't you think? Like, absolutely.
Yeah,
You're the
I'll take
CEO of this thing, and your story deserves to be shared.
Thank you.
And whatever stages I create, I want your message on them, because I want my people to see you and to witness you and to witness what you have, and have their own version of that. And I'll kind of wrap up with this thought. I think we talked about this when we went over coffee. But when in the scriptures, when Jesus says, become like me, I don't think that he's saying, be me.
Yeah.
I think he's saying, I lived my purpose. I fulfilled my mission. You got to find your mission and, like me, fulfill your mission to its nth degree, to its absolute most beautiful power. So don't be me. Don't do what I did, but do what you're supposed to do. And you're doing that. And it is a beautiful thing to be a part of and to witness and to share airspace with, because it inspires me.
Thank you. The feeling is very mutual. I'm very grateful for you.
So how do people hang out with you? How do people get in rooms where you are?
Limitless is a beautiful place to be with that. The community is so special.
It's amazing.
And I do believe that we've just scratched the surface on what we envision it to be and what we envision it to grow to be. And so Limitless formally is where you can join me on. But social, I'm on social.
Yeah.
I'm an open book on social because I think that that's where we really are able to connect at scale with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a great place to be. You get the good, bad, and ugly on that one.
It's beautiful. I love it. We're going to put Tiffany's socials all over in the show notes. So go find them there. If you want to get into Limitless, we'll put that in the show notes as well, and put your link in there so that people can come find you. I just want to tell you how grateful I am for you, if it wasn't apparent already. But I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for what you do share. I'm grateful that you are sharing your family with us and your sweet boy and your wife and everything that you put out there. It just, and I know it's not just true for me. If it's true for me, it's also true for other people, that you have such a special gift that you have opened. Not everyone opens their gifts, but you have opened it and you've shared it with the world, and you continue to do so. And I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay, friends, this concludes our episode of the Marianne Hickman Show. If you're new here, welcome. I'm excited to have you. I'm excited to introduce my friends to you. Make sure you go check out what Tiffany's doing. Go follow her on social, watch her story. I guarantee you're going to be inspired, especially as a mom. And we will see you in the next episode. Hey, what's up? Marianne Hickman here. Hey, listen, I hope you enjoyed that episode. We have some pretty amazing speakers on my podcast, and of course, more to come. If this is something that you enjoyed, guys, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. You guys know what to do. I love your comments, and I respond to every single one of them personally, not a bot or an agency. So if this is something you're enjoying, tell me about it. Tell me your gold nuggets. I want to hear from you. But here's the most important thing I want you to laser in on. I told you about the podcast database. You've probably seen me post about it all over social media. I want to make sure that you get it. So here's what I want you to do. Go to mariannehickman.com/database. Once you put all of your information in there, I'm going to send you the document. You request access to it. Boom, it's unlocked. Once you're in there, my rule of thumb is to apply to 10 podcasts a month. It's very digestible. It's very easy to do. And the database gets updated twice a week. So I want you constantly checking back in there for the next podcast that fits your audience. Thank you for being here. Much love to you, and we'll see you in the next episode.